Yum, yum, yum. Normally I'd have like little notes so I don't lose where I want to talk about things, but I think I could fill up 40 minutes here pretty easily going through everything. I don't want to do a whole 40-minute video because it's hella long, but we'll try to get through it as fast as we can. The big thing I have to bring up right at the start is when we're looking at the skill damage. I'll go over basic attack damage maybe another time. Once you understand how skill damage is calculated, the basic attack damage is pretty much the same thing. It's mostly the same formula. There's not too much of a difference in here aside from having the crit strike and the normal attack damage reduction. Um, so is there extra normal attack damage percentage? Is there percentage attack damage normal boost in the game? I don't. Do we have a weapon like that? It might be on someone I don't play. There is that. I don't think there's a percentage normal attack damage boost. I could be wrong, but we're not worried about basic attack damage right now because that's not the issue that we're having. Yeah, I thought so. That's just weird that there's a extra normal attack damage percent in there. Might be on an item later, but there's definitely not one right now. Okay, so the skill damage. This looks kind of complicated, and knowing how to plug in all the correct numbers is what's going to help you figure out how everything works. I've already mostly got it all figured out over here for today, but I'm going to show you guys how to solve the problems yourself as well and how to plug everything into the equation. So if you want to check anything for yourself, you can figure it out. Going to go to the classic Wolfram Alpha because I don't do math. Computers do math for me. We're going to take our formula. We've already got it over here, right? And we're going to plug it in. I've already done all this, preset everything, and plugged it all in. I'm going to show you guys how to do it yourselves in case you're curious. Boom. We're going to head over to Jackie because Jackie's the one we're going to check out and try to math out and see what the big issue is. So we're going to pretend Jackie has 200 attack power, right? We're just going to use that for the sake of argument, and we're just going to maintain that. There's no weapon calculated in this algorithm right now. So it's literally just meta skill amp build and a fake 200 attack power weapon, right? So if we're looking at Jackie's ratios, that's the first thing we have to look at because the first part of our formula is base skill damage, right? So the base skill damage is right here. First swing, I'm looking at rank 5, just so we're looking at all the max stuff, right? First swing does 100, second one does 110, right? That's base skill damage. Now, something that should be here as well is this. There should be an AP ratio within this, just so it's not so confusing to people, because the base skill damage is this damage including the ratio that's added on. Although that might be a little confusing if you don't actually see that, right? So the base skill damage here is 100 plus 110, which would put us at 210 damage, right? And then the ratio is 0.45 plus 0.65, which leaves you at a 1.1 ratio. So a Jackie with 200 attack power is going to get 220 extra damage off of that 1.1 ratio, right? So we're looking at our damage. Actually, I might have miscalculated that because it should be 430, not 420. Hilarious. So you have this, it goes 220, right? And then you have another 220. Actually, it's 440. My math is terrible. This is why I let the computer do the math and not me. All right, so we'll double check it all together here. So I'm actually not goofing it and leading you astray, right? So we've got 100, 110, it's 210. And then we have the 1.1 AP ratio, which will give us 220. So that should be 230 or 430, excuse me. Okay, and I'm just plugging this in. I'll show you how I plug it in, and then you throw it in Wolfram, and then you come back. Imagine all this was just the numbers and letters up here, right? So here's the times 100. That's right up here. Same. For the enemy's defense, I have it set to 50. 50's probably middle of the pack. If they get a bunch of items and everything has defense on it, they'll probably have 60 to 70. We're just going on a consistent target with 50 armor, right? We'll assume it's like mid game or something. So you've got 50 armor for them, and then into the next part. What are we into? Plus skill amp, minus enemy skill damage reduction. I don't think there's a flat skill reduction in the game right now. I could be wrong on that, but I don't think we have any flat skill reduction. So this is most of the time going to be 0. Like all the time. So armor doesn't scale like attack power. Um, yes, on certain moves. I'll get to that in a second. I'll explain where armor scales. But attack power scales with all of your abilities depending on the ability. I would have to go look up Hyunwoo real quick in order to show you. But like this is attack power scaling, right? There's no scaling on this ability here. And then down here, there's attack power scaling here, and there's attack power scaling here. If I check out, check out young Hyunwoo here. He actually has a defensive on his. So in his bluff, his W, it has defensive scaling. So it actually goes off of zero point 0.1 of his defense, which is not a lot. Like 10% of his defense isn't a crazy amount, but it's also giving him plus 10, plus 20, plus 30, 40, 50 defense at the same time. So if you're Hyunwoo and you have rank 5 bluff and you have 100 defense and you use it, you'll get 10 more defense on top of it, right? Because it has 0.1 defense modifier. So this is like the really important thing that I want to talk about a bit later. I'm just showing you right now so you know that there's other scaling in the game. Certain abilities should scale off of attack power, and certain abilities should scale off of skill damage. Not every single ability should be scaling off of both. And when we get into the math and I start showing you how much damage everything is doing, um, you'll see. All right, and since I messed up this, we'll redo it, and this damage is actually going to go up a little bit. But let's continue with what we got. We have regular skill amp. 13 skill amp comes from glass slippers, right? And then we're going to go, we don't have any flat skill amp, so that's not a problem. So we do 1 plus our skill amp percentage, right? If we take all of the percentage skill amp items. We have Burgeon, we have Burgeonet, I should say, Cabana, we have Drop Near, Glacial Shoes. That's not percentage, but we'll worry about it later, right? If we just get all the percentage-based boosts, excluding a weapon, right, we're sitting at 66% skill amp. I'm going to double check this just in case I'm being terrible at my own math. So we have a 20%, 20%, that's already 40%, right? 58%. And then where was I getting that last 8% from? Oh, Veritas Looks, but I don't have it open right now. Weird. Armor. Where you at? I was like, wait, there was one more 8% somewhere. But yeah, here's Luke's. So Luke's will give you another 8% skill damage increase. So grand total, when you have a full meta build, you're going to have 66% skill amp, right? That's a lot. That's a lot considering the best anti-skill amp armor item in the game is 30%. So it's less than half of what you can block. Um, it just annoys me to do this math because looking at the math, you're like, oh my god, this is silly. All right, so here's how we're going to use Wolfram Alpha to do our math for us so we don't screw up and make mistakes. What you're going to do is you're going to copy the information, copy your whole little spiel here, right? It's going to give us a different answer from 486 because I've already changed the value here. It was 420. I bumped it by 10. So we're going to put this in. Can hit equals. Wolfram's going to do the math for us, and we get 497 damage. But repeating, right? But we'll go 497 is what our damage comes out to. Okay. So let's go update that real quick. So it bumps it by 10, right? Because I bumped it by 10 pretty much. So if you're running attack power, we're just going to say our Jackie has 200 for the sake of argument, right? And skill amp together, you're getting 497 damage on just Jackie's Q. Pop, pop. Just her smacking you across the face with Q is 500 damage, right? Granted, this person has 50 armor, right? They have no skill DR, right? Okay, that's expected. Now let's update this real quick because we have to change this to 430. So this is going to bump up. This is how much damage Jackie's Q does to you if you're wearing Amazon armor. 407. 407. So that's actually a decent amount of health protected, right? So you saved 90 HP off of that Q. So essentially it took 45 damage off of each swing. Pretty big. But considering how much damage the rest of her kit's going to do when it starts hitting you, it's not as much. It's not going to be as much as you feel. So the AP and the skill amp, it's just the numbers are too high, right? Like the ratios are so high that it's making like the skill amp go out of control when it starts touching the ratios. Um, and again, we cannot lower this number anymore. This is the best we can do against a Jackie with full skill amp or anything with full skill amp, because we can only get a maximum 30% resistance. There's no flat DR. There's no alternate slots with DR. It's just you're just kind of boned on it, right? Let me get this up here just so I have something better in the background. Moving forward, the next thing to look at is just regular skill amp, right? Like how good is regular skill amp by itself? Weirdly enough, regular skill amp is worse than raw AP. It might also just be because I used a flat 200 for this, right? And that's just because it's way higher numbers. If I used an attack power value that was maybe more in line with what this skill amp could put out, it would look a little bit closer in numbers. But Jackie, not dual blades Jackie, but a like an axe Jackie or two-handed sword Jackie could potentially get to 200 attack power easily. Like I said earlier, I don't have base stats for any of the heroes. I don't have scaling, um, so I don't know what Jackie starts at with raw attack power. I don't know what her level 20 attack power stat is. I don't know her HP values or any extra stuff she gets there, so that's unfortunate. Um, we just have to kind of deal with it with what we can. So here's skill amp, only skill amp. So this is the meta skill amp build with no attack power. Okay, we're assuming that for whatever reason, this Jackie just doesn't have any ratios or any attack power built, and she only built like attack speed, crit chance, lifesteal, whatever, only skill amp. But no attack power whatsoever. When you do the formula like this with only skill amp, you're like, wow, those numbers look a little bit more manageable, right? Like even the Amazoness armor, it's taking its chunk, it's doing its job. And then when you look at attack power only, again, it's cut in half from what stacking attack power and skill amp does. And this is where I see the real big issue and where everyone's starting to not enjoy the game as much is because once you have a decent skill amp build going, it's really hard to stop. The way to beat it, and we're going to talk about this in a second, is HP. Because the way you beat Burst and the way you beat mages is by being bulky enough to not die to them instantaneously, right? The other way to do it is to be just as glassy as them and outplay them and manage to kill them before they kill you. But at that point, it just comes down to player skill, and there isn't anything else you can really do to give yourself an edge to hopefully win it out. Um, yeah, if anyone has any questions about like how I did this or where any of the numbers are coming from, feel free to ask. I titled what the number value is. Um, so this is like AP amp with Amazoness armor, skill amp with Amazoness, and then raw AP only and AP only versus Amazoness, right? As you can see, the attack power scaling is actually more than the skill amp by a lot. And again, it might just be because I have the 200 AP, but it's actually insane to see how much more it just doubles. It's like stacking them on top of each other, and it is definitely double trouble. Um, it's too much across the board for the heroes that are actually able to build it effectively, and the heroes that can't are just dunzos. 430 is the Q damage plus the AP. Yeah, so this one is your base Q damage including the attack power ratio, right? So this is your Q swinging with the attack power ratio stacked on top. This is the base damage that the Q puts out, right? That's why when you're down here with a heavy attack power ratio, oh, this should be 430 as well. I'm sorry. And this should probably be like 287 to 2. Oh, we'll just put 290. Just give it up a 10 boost because that's where it should be. Um, yeah, this is just raw attack power, right? And again, I'm using the 200 just to kind of show you where the values lie and how much extra the skill amp adds. The problem is I don't know exactly what should be done to make things better. Should you just strictly split heroes into physical damage dealers and like magical spell damage dealers and just do that and be make it to where if you're like a mage like Zahir, you scale really well with skill damage. So if we were to scroll into Zahir's profile, it wouldn't say 0.4 AP, it would say 0.4 SD, right? Yeah, skill damage or spell damage or spell power, whatever they want to change it to, right? Um, but the fact that like Hyunwoo here can build an item and then also build skill amp on top of it and then just multiply his damage is very silly. Um, the fact that he gets a 2.0 AP ratio on his ultimate is also kind of silly, but I'll discuss ratios later when things are toned down a little bit. But maybe like not making every single character scale huge with skill amp stats. Yeah, and that's the problem is skill amp by itself, as we can see with the numbers, doesn't actually give you that much of a benefit. The problem is once you start stacking the attack power on top of the skill amp, it starts going a little out of control. Um, to give everyone the best example, this is the dual swords, right? This is dual swords. Now I'm running it with 200 attack power again, just cause. Uh, I don't think dual sword Jackie can get up to 200 attack power. I could be wrong. Most dual swords are like 45 attack power max. The ones I use, I think I have 25 to 30. But they also have skill amp on them, so I have even more skill amp in my build than this would show. So technically, this should be like 75 to 80% skill amp damage, which is even crazier than what I've already written down here. But we're just gonna pretend we have 200 AP to show you how much damage Dual Blades does when it's skill amped, right? So here's Dual Blades, 200 attack power. It's got the full skill amp build, 66%. We got the 13 flat from Glass Slippers. The first one does 420 damage. The first push of your D button with Dual Blades Jackie does nearly as much damage as Jackie's Q by itself. The second hit does it does even more. So altogether, Jackie hitting you with dual blades and hitting the button twice does 1,000 damage and with a proper skill amp build, right? Now, I'm not saying everyone's going to have 50 defense, so they might take a little bit less damage than that, but 1,000 damage is a metric fuck ton of damage when most of the characters running around in the game are at like 1,200 to 1,500 HP. Like, I'll go double check HP values because I haven't been looking at them that closely, but yeah, very few heroes are going to be able to stand up to something like that and not just get instantly melted. Um, and again, the bigger thing I think I want to show is what happens if AP plus skill amp versus the Amazon, right? So it's a 407 damage hit. Let's pretend that the devs gave us, what am I looking for? Wolfram. Let's pretend that the devs gave us some more DR and we were actually able to stop skill amp a little bit better. Let's say like 50% max, right? Because 50% cutting it in half is a lot. So that means they're going to have about 16%, maybe more if they have more on their weapon, right? 16% skill amp versus you. And when they hit you, which one did I do this? 430, 13? Yeah, okay. So now when they hit you, it's going to be 347, right? Let me double check this, make sure I didn't goof too bad. 347. So where's the Amazon armor? Boom, here. Yeah. 347. So as you can see, getting more skill amp DR, damage reduction, will definitely help out in the long term. Because now at 50% DR, the skill amp, the raw skill amp and attack power build is starting to be a little bit closer to where it's the only attack power, the only skill amp, right? The problem is we don't have this. We don't have 50% DR in the game right now. It's just not happening. So you're literally stuck eating the 407. That's a lot. And this is just Jackie. Imagine someone else like Aya. I don't even want to. I don't even want. I don't even want to look this up. It's so bad. I looked at it and I was like, "What the fuck?" Okay. So Aya's W scales up as you level it, right? Of course, as most abilities do. But its attack power scaling also goes up a lot. So now, by the time you get to here, it's at a 0.7 attack power ratio, right? And she has 10 bullets. Excuse me while I do the calculator math, because, it's times 10. It's very simple. We'll go, oops, that's not 0.7. Clear. 0.7 times 10. That is a 7 attack power ratio, right? Because it's just accumulative over the course of it. So now what you would do with her is you would take her attack power, multiply it by 700%, and then add it onto this 100, right? I mean, I guess you could just do the 0.7, and you just take 0.7, and then you add it onto 100, and it's times 10. But yeah, no, it's just, whew, whew, you do not, do not want to eat ISW to the face. It hits really hard. That is such a huge ratio. There's some other silly things about like weapon skills that I kind of want to cover. Where's Magnus? Magnus actually has some interesting weapon skills, because he's someone else who doesn't only scale with attack power, except for all of his stuff. Where are your weapons? Oh my god, do I just have to go to the regular weapon page? I do. Here we go. So with hammers, I found this really interesting. Hammers actually have a defense ratio, right? So you can actually get away with building defense on Magnus and using a hammer, and you'll actually be able to get some extra chunky damage out of there. Because a 2.0 defense ratio plus a 100, that's crazy. If you have 100 defense, that's 200, 300 damage on that. Crazy. Nice. I like it. And even this one, he's got 5 point deal damage to all enemies in front of you and knock them back. If they hit a wall from the knockback, they're stunned. 5.0 AP ratio. If you hit them and stun them into the wall, that's insane. That's a lot. Weapon skills have really, really, really high ratios, and I don't know if they should be that high. Maybe on characters who don't get a lot of attack power in their builds, sure. Okay, makes a bit more sense. But again, it comes back to the skill amp being an issue. Let's talk about how to counter skill amp and what we can actually do about it right now, because there's not much. there's really not much. So I did the dual swords, kicking your ass with no resistances. If you were to put on the Amazonas armor, right, it would definitely go down a little bit more, but it would still be nearly like 900 damage, which is a lot for a singular button to pull off that isn't an ultimate. So the next thing we're going to talk about is effective HP and why the hell this matters for an effective meta, or healthy meta at least. Right now, I don't know if you've noticed, but Luki has quite a cool build where he picks up a few HP items, he picks up some normal attack damage DR, so early game you're not really shitting on him that hard because all you have are auto attacks. But he grabs HP items, and I've actually been saying Schrodinger's box is really good, not for the skill amp, but because it gives you 600 HP, and that's big. Okay, so now if you imagine that this Jackie runs at you and she hits you for 600 damage, or at least 400, 500 damage. We'll do the regular AP skill amp build, right? She runs up and smacks you for 500 damage with her Q, right? Like, ow, that really hurt. Luckily for you, you've got a biker helmet and Schrodinger's box, so you've got 1100 more HP to deal with this Jackie, right? The issue is you need to live through her burst. And if you don't have the defensives, you might not be able to live through the burst, depending on how much extra scaling and amp she has in her kit at the time. And this goes for any character, right? Like if you have the HP, you might be able to live through the burst. And then what it comes down to is, can you kill that person before their cooldowns come back up? Your defense is there to let you live through their cooldowns once. That's all you can get in this game, right? If you can do that, then you should be able to kill them. The problem is there's just not enough of a viable build outside of skill amp to really get you there. Attack speed Nadine, pretty good. I'm gonna try Zahir tonight. I'm gonna try Shurikens and try to see if I can do an attack speed build with him. Crit chance, crit damage, see if it works out. But the thing is, skill amp's just way too good for everybody. Like if you don't build skill amp, you just do less damage, and that isn't how it should be. It should be if you're a mage and you build skill amp, you'll do a good chunk more damage, but you're also very squishy. And it's just like, oof. Trying to build an attack speed heart last night. I think the auto attack heart build works. I don't know if she gets attack speed though. I think she just gets auto attack damage and bulk. and I think that's actually how that build goes. I could be wrong. I'd have to ask like Aetherist or somebody and see what they're rocking or see what they're building. I like the explosive grenade weapon for Zahir, highest normal attack damage weapon. That actually sounds kind of silly. I'll have to give that one a shot. Um, wait. The formula on the wiki is not most up to date. Attack power, base skill damage, enemy defense, skill amp. Nope, the formulas are the same. Oh, I didn't get the stream link for Topa J. My bad. It's in the other channel. I don't want to post my stream link. It's not my Discord. I'm not posting my stream link in the general chat. I'll get in trouble. Someone else can do it for me because then it's not self-promotion. Then I can't get in trouble. Um, but yeah, so effective HP in a normal MOBA, in a normal like game like this, when it's hilarious. I was just playing Nexus Blitz last night on the PBE, and I was playing Warwick against a team of full attack damage characters. So before the first event, the first fight, I literally built HP and Ninja Tabby, which is armor and auto attack reduction. So we started the fight, and it's like all five of them are beating on my face, and they can't do anything to me. I'm just walking into them, and I don't care because they all picked one damage type, and I built against said damage type. So I just win. Right now, eventually, late game, they start doing a lot more, and I have to, 1v1 or 2v1, and I can't fight all five at the same time, but I'm still incredibly bulky relative to any other character walking into all five of them and getting shot in the face. The problem with that is I don't have as much damage, right? So when it comes to killing multiple people, I won't be as effective. That's what my team's for. With this game, you're not supposed to have a team. So you can't have somebody build tanky for you to go absorb all the cooldowns and then you be all the damage so that you can just pepper out the DPS from afar while your tank is soaking for you, essentially. Uh, it just doesn't work that way. A singular character needs to be able to build enough resistances in order to counter anything he's going to go against if that's what he knows he's going to go against. And I talked about this the last time I talked about the state of the meta and everything going on with skill amp. If you build like if they gave us a whole bunch of extra uh, damage reduction items, right? If we just had tons and tons of skill damage reduction on each slot to the point where you could maybe get like 80% skill damage reduction, right? Might be excessive, just as an example. If you can get up to the 80% skill damage reduction, then you should theoretically beat anybody who went full skill amp because you're negating their entire build and then you're just fighting them with the base kit and you have more defenses overall, right? That's how it should work because then what happens is you have 80% skill damage reduction, but you know what you don't have? Normal attack damage reduction. You don't have a lot of base armor either, probably. So what's going to end up happening is any auto attack build is going to walk up to you and destroy you. Absolutely destroy you. So if there's an auto attack Nadine and then there's somebody else who's building a whole bunch of skill amp, you need to make a conscious decision as a tanky, bruisery player. Do I build more against the auto attacker or do I build more against the skill amp? Or do I build both and pray, right? And the problem is there's just not any way to build against the other type right now. The reason like auto attackers were kind of just falling out of favor and vanishing from the game was because everyone was building armor with auto attack reduction on it because that was like all the armor all around everywhere. It was really easy to just stop somebody from auto attacking. So to counter that, you just go for skill amp because there's nothing that stops you except for being glassy. Like having a full skill amp build, you're going to be a little squishy. But if you can murder anything before they can touch you in one cooldown or one set of rotations of cooldowns, then what's stopping you, right? Let's also not forget that like this build does have CDR in it. Like it has a good amount of CDR in it. 20% on Persianet, you get Veritas, that's another 15%. You're nearly done on CDR. So not only are you a mage with a full damage build, but you also have the cooldown reduction to put all your shit at half CDR. Like right off the bat. It's crazy. Cooldowns are huge in this game because it's like one of the bigger things that you can use. You only have your abilities to give you extra oomph over another player. So having a 35% CDR on top of the build being as good as it is with skill damage for everybody, it's too overbearing. It really is. And it also forces a super weird, unhealthy meta where everyone's rushing gemstones all the time, right? And then you're like, well, maybe I'll just go build something else. You can't because nothing else is as good as this. You're gonna go build your Amazonas armor, right? You're gonna get your 30% skill DR, and you're just gonna have to pray that you can outlive and outheal anybody that has full skill amp. And it's unfortunate. That's just the way things are right now, and the more I play the game, the more I'm like, ugh, it's just stale, right? It feels really really stale. And if they fixed it, it would be a million times better because auto attack builds would open up for every single character, right? You would have not everybody starting at fucking chapel and cemetery. Like you would have people spreading out a little bit more because they realize that there's other weapons and items and different things they can get. But yeah, no. Right now it's just you build skill amp. Like even when I'm building something else, this is the thing that bothers me the most. Even when I'm on another build or I'm building something and I'm like, oh yeah, I'm building this auto attack build. This is sick. I walk by an Imperial Burgonet and I'm like, that's mine. I walk by a Cabana, well, even a Commander's armor to an extent, right? And I'm just like, oh, I'll take that. And then before I know it, I'm running skill amp again, and I'm like, God damn! I've find a drop near somewhere. And that's the thing too is since everyone is running skill amp, if I kill someone and I don't have like full set, right? If I'm not full build yet and I kill somebody, they're dropping skill amp items. I'm getting a Veritas looks off of someone if I kill. They're gonna have glacials, right? Drop near Cabana. All this stuff is gonna be in their inventory, or they're going to have like a bunch of little requirements building up into it. So mm, it's a problem. And I don't want to sit here and rant about it too much because I know the devs are aware of it, and I'm sure they're trying to figure out a way for the math to function properly and to not break the game too much, fixing it. Where's formulas? Because I don't know. If there was more options to build against it, it might be better. But right now, the only option you have is HP and Amazonas armor and praying that it's enough. Just praying that it's enough. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for the formulas. There was one more thing I wanted to discuss. More items in squads. Oh, yeah. If squads is going to stay around, there needs to be hella more items in squads. It honestly feels like there's a lack of resources in that game mode, and one person on the team ends up with nothing. Like it just feels like one person just is hardcore dicked out. Duos feels okay. It doesn't feel too crowded in duos, but when you're playing trios, it just feels like there aren't enough items on the map for everybody. And you end up with like one or two people getting their build together because they got lucky enough to run around and pick everything up on time. And then one person ends up with like half of a build because it's too risky to fight some people in certain situations and they just didn't get what they wanted because there was two to three other teams looting the whole area and it's just like, oh man. Oh man. Yeah, no, I like squads. I think it's cool. I think it has potential. But like what I've been saying is it needs a new map with having that many people in mind and that kind of setup of teams in mind, right? So instead of a bunch of different areas that are like really small and interconnected, they could make a map with like six areas, right? And then it's just like strictly six areas and they're just bigger overall. So there's a lot more loot. There's a lot more ways to just finish out builds in an area than run to another area. Because that actually brings me into one of my next points, right? Um, my next point, you should not be able to finish a purple weapon within one zone. No one should be able to finish anything that strong within one zone. Okay. White rhinos are really good boots right now because you can finish them within like some areas that are connected and right next to each other. Plasma tonfas, Aya's gun, Hotel Ballista, to an extent, Lukey's build with the bow. You do need to go to two areas to actually finish that one, so I'm not harping on it too much. Um, but nobody should be able to finish a purple weapon within a single area because it's just like, oh man, Jackie's BMAX can be completed for just two zones as well as Devil's Marksman. See, if it's two zones, I don't mind it as much, and that still depends on the weapon's strength too, right? BMAX is kind of a trade-off because you can finish it really fast, gives you massive attack power, gives you that vision range, but it makes you really slow. Like like slower than what ballista slows you down with. So it's really strong, and if you can get it, you might be able to rock it. I do want to try BMAX a little bit, right? Um, and I do think being built in two areas is fine because if you start in an area, normally you're pretty safe in your starting area because no one's trying to fuck with each other at rank 1, 2, 3 while you're farming up the quick first area. It's when you go to the second area, or more specifically, when there's like 1 minute till nightfall on the first day and into nightfall in the first night, that's when good players have a weapon and they're nearly done with their boots and they're about ready to go hunting, right? If you check people who are playing super specific builds, Lukey's bow, anyone playing plasma tonfas, Ayas to an extent are doing the same thing, right? They just build their pistol and run around, start murdering people. Funnily enough, I said people are going to start building weapons into shoes because that's the easiest way to start going around killing people, and that's what's been happening. I've been seeing more and more people picking up their weapon and then white rhinos almost immediately because weapon and white rhinos ensures kills because you can chase people down, got the attack speed, got the healing debuff, and the healing debuff is also really strong. I think that needs to be. Mm, I would say it's good to have it on a lot of things, but not on too many things. Because if everything, like, if it's really easy to pick up healing reduction, then building food feels way less effective. People who have healing in their kit are just nerfed because everybody's running healing reduction all the time. But yeah, it is really strong to have any amount of healing reduction in your kit right now. And the only thing we can really pray for is that the devs figure out a way to swap this formula up to make skill damage not scale with attack power. Because it's just too much. Like, honestly, if we looked at Jackie, if you just cut her ratios in half and then made it so her skills didn't scale with skill amp, that might be too much. But if you did that with everyone, right, it might bring them down in line to make them a little bit more manageable across the board. Maybe there won't be as much burst in the game, and that's okay. As long as mages can still be bursty. And in that regard, then you just give mages specific better ratios with skill amp, right? So for like all of the attack power guys, anyone who's like melee, give them attack power bonus, give them attack power scaling, just cut it in half, right? And then on skill amp, you just make skill amp work for mages better, right? So mages won't have as much attack power scaling in their abilities, but they'll have skill damage scaling. So that way, when you build flat skill damage or anything else, it'll start giving them a lot more benefit for their burstiness. I wouldn't want to see that until there's also more resistances for us to not get blown up immediately and a bit more HP on the field. But yeah, overall, I think that is what needs to be the major focus is splitting attack power and skill amp to not be calculated as they are because it's just so much. And toning it down to the point where it's here. Like this just feels so much more manageable for everyone, right? Because when you fight someone and they have slightly better items than you, or they have a little bit more skill amp, you just die. There's not really like I could outplay this guy real quick. It's it, the game is too much of a stat check as opposed to being able to like outplay your opponent, right? If you run into someone and you hit tab and you look at their items and they have one or two purples or something over you, you can't win. You just have to run. Like there are very few situations where you'll win that engagement if you're under items, right? Um, like you need extra levels. There's so many extra variables that need to go into effect there. So maybe just overall lowering the damage across the board for everyone and making sure they scale with either only attack power or only skill damage will help people who are even lower level turn things around on people who are bad, right? Because if like there's some dual blades jackies just running around dual blading people and popping out in bushes and murdering everyone, it's like I have good reaction times. I can't live through that. Like if she does the one and then I leap away, then she leaps after me, then she does the second and I'm dead. Like there's no way to really get around that. It's too much. It's too extreme. But ugh, we'll see. I want to get into the game right when it gets up because I really want to try some Zahir out. I want to get quick shuriken build rocking, and then I want to do some Fiora rapier. And then Ignis is supposed to be playing with me tonight. He's gonna show up whenever the hell he's around, I guess. He's gonna do Zahir too. We're gonna run double Zahir tonight and see how it works. But yeah, again, I'm not the only one who feels like the game's getting really stale just because of the way the builds are being forced. And this is something that the devs are going to have to keep an eye on as they go forward with the game's balance. Is if something becomes too strong for too long, they need to bring it down and even buff the counters up more. Because when they nerfed skill amp this last patch, they nerfed Amazonis armor. And I'm still just boggled by that because they didn't put anything else in the game to give you more skill amp to make up for the skill amp reduction that they took away, right? So it's like, okay, we nerfed skill amp across the board a little bit. It's fine. It's still the most dominant build by a large margin. The only things beating it are Nadine, maybe regen Magnus, if he's like, in the last circle he knocks you out and times you out or something, or regen Heart, right? I know Heart's been doing some work, but a lot of those builds have a lot certain things in common. They're bulky. They can't be like beat up right away. They have good zoning or ranging to keep things away from them. But yeah, things that need to go in, like Jackie, you're just class, you die. Just die. The Amazon's armor nerf is still mind-boggling. Like I wouldn't have cared if they would have nerfed it, if they would have added an arm item or boots or an accessory with skill damage reduction. Because then we could at least make up for the fact that you took away some from the best chess piece in the game that had it. And to be honest, it only has some defense and skill damage reduction. So if you built that and an auto attacker shoots you, you're gonna be in a lot of fucking pain. It's gonna hurt. So yeah, I don't know. It was an interesting decision. I'm not trying to grind the devs too hard to spill the beans on why they do what they do. If they feel like sharing, they can share. But I think that was like just really questionable because if anything, it's just made skill amp worse because the hard counter to skill amp got nerfed, and skill amp as a whole is still the best build. So it's unfortunate, but I guess it is what it is. So yeah, this is the damage formula. I've slightly updated it right here with the AP ratio because it says base skill damage, and some people might not know that they need to also add in their attack power ratios into the mix. So just get that going. But the servers are currently up, so it is time to go murder some kids and survive.